like working on this was incredibly healing for me, for my teenage self, because I got to kind of relive high school through the lens of somebody who was more evolved in their gender identity journey than I was at the time.
Lovely to meet you both.
So nice to meet you.
I'm Jordan from Pop Culture Planet. I just read the book, watched the screener, loved the movie.
Oh my gosh.
So good.
And you read the book.
Oh yes. I'm a book girly.
Oh,
like book adaptations are my favorite. I love just seeing the process of, taking a story that's already been written and just adapting it into something else. Mm-hmm. Tommy, I know you mentioned that you originally read it in 2017. Did you know immediately you wanted to adapt it into a movie, or did you just enjoy reading it and revisit it?
The year is, it was 2017, 2018. I'm like, what the year was, but sometime around then. I had a manuscript of it prior to it coming out, and so I think the intention was always to do something with it. I didn't quite know what yet, and then when I read it, initially it was approached almost as an acting opportunity in some capacity, but then when I read it, I felt really drawn to write the adaptation for it. I felt like I was uniquely qualified to do so. I'm just a queer person from the South, was identifying as non-binary at the time, and was so moved by Mason's work and the world that they created. So I think I slid into Mason's DMs and was like, can we talk about your book for a sec? Because it's so great. And then they entrusted me in this and gave me freedom to adapt in whatever ways I saw fit. And we're super collaborative, and I ran all the bigger changes by them, and they were super excited by them and supportive, and sent them the script before we ever took it to market, just to make sure, like before I even got to a place of ever making the film, that they felt good about it. And yeah, it was a great process overall. And then as I was writing, it became clear to me that I wanted to direct it.
You read the book, you loved the content, you changed some stuff. How much would you say is directly adapted versus kind of adding your own twist to it?
Say it's like a 70-30. I don't know, what do you think?
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did you read the book before getting cast?
Yeah. No, I read it after I got cast.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I had it.
Yeah.
I had it like years prior.
I think the essence of it remains the same.
I agree.
And especially Ben, I think remains really, really almost the same in a lot of ways. But yeah, I think things that work in a book don't always work on screen.
Mm-hmm. One difference that I noticed especially was you omitted Ben's journey with therapy. I was curious kind of what was your thinking with that, because I know that was a large part of the book.
Yeah, I felt like circumstantially, I just wasn't quite sure if I wasn't quite sure if I could justify Hannah as a new mom, which I also added, thinking about all of those things and like sort of making that decision for Ben. I also felt like the first draft had a therapist, and it had Miriam, and it had all these characters. And I realized in adapting it that they are all serving a very similar purpose, which is not, I'm a heavily therapized person, and I love therapy, and I think it is such an important resource. But I also think it is something that is not always accessible to people, even if they need it or want it. So I thought about what would it look like for Ben to navigate a world in which maybe that wasn't something that was super accessible to them. Maybe there wasn't a queer specialist in Raleigh who could handle it, that they could afford, right? I was just thinking about like circumstances, and I was like, I think therapy is such a privilege. So for the film version, I thought, okay, well, for me, I didn't have a therapist in high school, but I had an English teacher who protected me. I had the assistant to the vice principal, or like the headmaster of our high school, whatever terminology they were using. I grew up in Atlanta. Tiffany was like my safe space. Like I would go hide in her office, and I used her office as my locker, and like those adults shaped me and saved me as a kid. And so I thought that Lena's character, Miss Lyons, could serve a similar purpose as like a safe space for Ben to confide in and grow a version of her.
It's nice to see Ben being able to rely on those other people.
Yeah, because it's true. Like one person can't be everything to you. Nathan can't be everything. Hannah can't be everything. Thomas, like people in your life, everyone serves different purposes in our lives, and I think Miss Lyon's purpose is really, really integral to Ben's experience, and I would say a lot of queer kids' experience. Yeah, I think there's a lot of memes that joke about like gay kids and their English teachers, and so I thought like, okay, like queer kid and their art teacher.
Similar theme. Definitely.
Yeah.
Speaking of kind of Ben's mental health journey in the movie, Corey, in the book, you're able to be in Ben's mind and read those thoughts. How were you able to kind of channel that into the physical aspects of your performance and still show those things without necessarily saying them?
Yeah, it was really cool to have the book because it feels like just a manuscript of an internal monologue. Like it was such a wealth of information. I feel like the way we translated that into the movie is these scenes where there is no dialogue and it's just like, montage type stuff of Ben getting ready for school or going through a depressive episode or wandering aimlessly as they think about things. So yeah, we used music a lot in the filming of those scenes, and Tommy would talk me through things, and we would just kind of roll the camera for like 10 minutes sometimes and just like explore all the different parts of the room. And yeah, it was cool. What I like about that is it feels very meditative, and it feels like life just kind of organically unfolding as opposed to this plot point happening and this plot point happening. And Ben does go on such a journey, and a lot of that happens with people, but a lot of it happens alone. So I love those moments in the movie.
Film is a visual medium. You cannot rely exclusively on voiceover or text or dialogue to tell the story. I mean, it is a visual medium through and through, and I love novels because you can really burrow inside of characters, and that intimacy felt important to the film. And I'm just grateful that Corey is the type of actor who can be that vulnerable and let people in.
Is there anything that you've learned about yourself in the process of making this movie?
Yeah, for sure. Let people be good, let people surprise you. I feel like working on this was incredibly healing for me, for my teenage self, because I got to kind of relive high school through the lens of somebody who was more evolved in their gender identity journey than I was at the time. And also live sort of through Ben and all these other characters of making friends and falling in love in a safe way. And what does an affirming relationship look like as a teenager as opposed to something that is less affirming? What does consent look like? What are these conversations, even if they're just kind of simple in the film or part of a larger story, that was really healing for me.
I love how you said that it was healing for you, because I feel like for me it was very freeing. So we're both coming at this from, I feel like you're maybe looking back a little bit, and I feel like I'm looking forward. And yeah, getting to a place with Ben where the opinions of others maybe aren't the most important thing anymore was very freeing, and something that I've taken away and I'm trying to implement.
I love hearing behind the scenes. You see the story and it's so impactful, and knowing you can just tell by watching it that it is something special. And I think something that's great about this too is, it is kind of that coming of age story, but I think it can really serve an educative purpose for a larger audience. Is there something specific that you're hoping audiences take away from this movie?
And there's so many things. I think what nourishing each other can look like. I think that's a lesson in this film. What love can look like in its varied forms, and community. What community can really be.
Yeah, the importance of letting others in and trusting that people will accept you for who you are.
I think this is maybe a little overdue in my opinion. I think, movies and media is always
God relate.
far behind where we are societally.
Well, and I think going back to changes from the book, that's one of the reasons that I didn't really dramatize keeping this secret. You know what I mean? The book really relies on Ben dramatically and plot-wise relies on Ben keeping their identity secret from Nathan. But I felt like kids are kind of past that right now. When I talk to people who are Z, maybe that's your generation too. They're, 1 in 5 people are identified in the LGBTQIA spectrum in your generation, so it felt more realistic to me in the cinematic universe for this to have that not be a point of conflict or confusion. Right? It's good to let people in, and you want to feel safe with whoever you're with, and I think Ben learns that taking that chance, after Miss Lyons and Hannah and Thomas show different examples of how someone could respond to you coming out as non-binary, to just tell them anything, because the fear is being healed by other people responding differently than maybe your parents did.
I feel like I want people to just listen to each other. And
I know, this is a movie I feel like you have to sit with for a little bit. Watch it and take it in and just enjoy it.
yeah,
I feel like you can really just immerse yourself in it. It feels so personal, like I said, like you're in that bedroom, like you're really in this story, which is so lovely to see.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. This was great. Thank you so much.
This is so sweet. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
So nice to meet
It was so
you.
nice